It should have been just another ordinary night. But by dawn, Sandee Rozzo would be gone. Murdered in cold blood, ambushed in her own garage just steps from safety. At first, police thought it was random. A robbery gone wrong, perhaps. But nothing was missing. This wasn't random. This was personal, calculated, ruthless. What began as a routine homicide investigation soon unraveled into something darker. A twisted plot born of obsession, jealousy, and betrayal. Welcome. This is Crime Uncovered, where every case has a story, and the truth is often stranger and darker than fiction. If you haven't subscribed yet, kindly do so to stay updated on the latest crimes we uncover. It was July 5th, 2003, a humid Florida evening that still carried the scent of fireworks and celebration. In Pinellas Park, a seemingly quiet city on the outskirts of Tampa, the neighborhood had begun to settle. It was the weekend after Independence Day, and most families were still relishing the afterglow of parades, backyard barbecues, and long nights under sparkling skies. The streets, usually lively just 24 hours earlier, had grown calm. The only sounds were the occasional hum of passing cars and the faint booms from distant fireworks shows still wrapping up elsewhere. In this sleepy suburban setting, danger seemed worlds away. But for 37-year-old Sandee Rozzo, that sense of safety was about to vanish forever. Sandee had spent the evening working at the Green Iguana, a lively Tampa bar where the night had likely been filled with music, laughter, and crowds seeking one last toast to the holiday weekend. For Sandee, this was routine. She had worked countless shifts just like this one, pouring drinks, chatting with regulars, and handling the hustle of the nightlife. By the time her shift ended, exhaustion tugged at her. She left the bar around 10:45 p.m., her mind likely preoccupied with simple thoughts. Maybe what to eat, how her daughter was doing, or the comfort of slipping into bed after a long day. The drive home was uneventful. No tailgating car, no gut feeling that something was wrong. When Sandee pulled into the garage of her modest home just after 11 p.m., it should have been the beginning of peace. Instead, it became the start of a nightmare. She was barely settled in her seat when the quiet evening exploded into horror. Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, gunshots tore through the garage. Sharp, rapid pops pierced the stillness. So quick and abrupt that nearby neighbors thought they were simply leftover fireworks from the 4th of July festivities. It wasn't unusual to hear crackles and bangs in early July, but this wasn't that. Before anyone could react or comprehend, Sandee Rozzo had been shot 8 times at close range. The attack was brutal, calculated, methodical. The bullets struck her in the head, neck, and torso, ensuring death. The killer didn't steal anything. They didn't ransack her car or home. They came for her, and only her. The scene was devastating. Glass shattered, blood spattered across the interior of the car. Sandee's lifeless body slumped behind the wheel. It wasn't a robbery. It wasn't random. This was personal. A neighbor named Troy Edwards, who was inside the house and had been sleeping upstairs, heard the loud bangs. Half asleep, he assumed it was more fireworks until something didn't feel right. Rushing downstairs into the garage, he was met with a scene of unspeakable horror. Sandee, his girlfriend, was shot and bleeding heavily. Panic flooded him. His shaking hands dialed 911 as he struggled to process what had just happened. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but for Sandee Rozzo, it was already too late. Her shocking murder sent shockwaves across the peaceful neighborhood. A woman beloved by her friends, co-workers, and family was dead, not by accident, but by deliberate and savage violence. Who could hate Sandee Rozzo this much? And what darkness from her past had followed her home? As police closed off the garage and the investigation began, one thing was clear. This was no random crime. It was an execution, and the killer or killers had carefully planned every second of it. What nobody knew yet was that the path to uncovering the truth would reveal a tangled web of jealousy, obsession, manipulation, and betrayal that cut deeper than anyone could imagine. Sandee Rozzo was a vibrant, independent woman striving to build a better life for herself and her teenage daughter. By day, she pursued modeling opportunities, By night, she worked as a bartender at Tampa's Green Iguana, known for its lively atmosphere. Sandee was admired for her charisma and determination, but her path was marred by a series of tumultuous relationships that brought danger into her life. In late 2001, Sandee met Timothy Tracy Humphrey at a nightclub in Ybor City, Florida, where she bartended and he worked as a doorman. At 6 feet 2 inches with a muscular build, Tracy claimed to be a former underwear model and ex-football player, spinning tales of a glamorous past. His charm quickly drew Sandee in, and they began a passionate relationship. However, the relationship soon turned violent. In February 2002, Humphrey was arrested for felony battery after allegedly beating and sexually assaulting Sandee. She reported that he had held her captive for days, during which he repeatedly assaulted her and threatened her life. Despite her fear, Sandee found the courage to press charges, leading to a scheduled trial in August 2003. Her testimony was crucial. Without it, the case against Humphrey could collapse. This made her a target. While awaiting trial, Humphrey met Ashley Laney, a 19-year-old working at Planet Smoothie in Brandon, Florida. They met at a local gym in 2002, and Ashley quickly fell under his influence. Despite the significant age difference, they began dating, and Humphrey's manipulative nature led to a swift courtship. On July 4, 2003, just a day before Sandee's murder, Humphrey and Ashley married. Meanwhile, Sandee was attempting to move on with her life. She was in a relationship with Troy Edwards, who lived with her at the time of her death. While Troy considered their relationship serious, Sandee reportedly viewed him more as a roommate, contemplating ending the relationship. The tension between Sandee and Humphrey remained unresolved. With the trial looming, Humphrey's fear of conviction grew. He manipulated Ashley into believing that Sandee's testimony would ruin their future. Under his influence, Ashley agreed to eliminate Sandee. On July 5, 2003, Sandee was ambushed in her garage and shot 8 times, a calculated act intended to silence her forever. July 5, 2003, a night that was supposed to be ordinary. For Sandee Rozzo, the hours unfolded like any other shift. She wrapped up bartending at the popular Green Iguana, a lively Tampa spot where laughter, drinks, and music filled the air well past midnight. By 10:45 p.m., she had said her goodbyes to coworkers and headed home. The drive was short, about 25 minutes to her house in the quiet community of Pinellas Park. But what Sandee didn't know was that death was following her. Trailing behind her in the darkness was Ashley Laney Humphrey, the new wife of her violent ex-boyfriend, Timothy Tracy Humphrey. Just a day earlier, July 4th, Ashley had married Tracy, officially binding herself to a man with a chilling past. Ashley was just 20 years old, impressionable, and deeply under Tracy's control. Tracy had convinced her of something horrifying. If Sandee lived to testify in his upcoming assault and imprisonment trial, he faced a possible conviction and prison sentence. Sandee's testimony wasn't optional. It was the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. To Tracy, her very existence threatened his freedom and ego. Ashley, brainwashed and eager to prove her loyalty, agreed to do the unthinkable. She became the assassin in her husband's twisted plan. As Sandee pulled into her garage around 11:10 p.m., exhausted and ready to end her day, Ashley followed closely behind. She waited until Sandee had driven in and started gathering her belongings. Then she moved. In a cold, calculated moment, Ashley approached the garage, armed with a .22 caliber pistol borrowed from her stepfather. Without hesitation, she raised the weapon and fired. 8 shots. Each bullet found its target, tearing through Sandee's body. She was shot multiple times in the torso, arms, and finally, a brutal and deliberate shot to the head. Ashley didn't linger. The plan was simple: kill and disappear. Leaving Sandee slumped in her driver's seat, gasping for life, Ashley fled into the night. Inside the house, Troy Edwards, Sandee's boyfriend, heard what sounded like fireworks. The July 4th festivities had only ended the night before, so the loud pops didn't initially alarm him. But something about the timing felt wrong. Curious, he went to check. When he opened the garage door, he stumbled upon a scene that would haunt him forever. Sandee, the woman he loved, was unrecognizable. Blood pooled beneath her, glass was shattered, and her body remained motionless in the front seat of her car. Panic surged through Troy as he frantically dialed 911, his voice cracking with disbelief and horror. Emergency responders raced to the scene. Paramedics worked desperately, loading Sandee into an ambulance and rushing her to the hospital. But the damage was irreversible. Despite their best efforts, doctors pronounced Sandee Rozzo dead shortly after her arrival. To neighbors and local residents, it initially appeared as though Sandee had been the tragic victim of a random shooting, perhaps a burglary gone wrong or a disgruntled customer seeking revenge. But detectives on the scene saw something different. Her purse and wallet remained untouched. There were no signs of robbery. The brutal and targeted nature of the attack suggested something more sinister, something personal. The seeds of suspicion were planted that very night. Soon, a deeply disturbing truth would begin to unravel. A truth rooted not in random violence, but in jealousy, manipulation, and premeditated murder. And behind it all stood two people: a newlywed husband with everything to lose, and a young bride willing to kill to make him happy. The murder of Sandee Rozzo stunned detectives from the start. Her valuables were untouched, no signs of robbery. This wasn't random, it was personal. Naturally, suspicion fell first on Troy Edwards, Sandee's boyfriend who had been home that night and who found her body. His hands and legs were cut, which he claimed happened while trying to pull her out of the car. His story raised eyebrows. He had locked the house after leaving for the hospital, and his timeline seemed rehearsed. But as investigators pressed, Troy's account remained steady. His grief was real, his alibi checked out, and phone records backed him up. Eventually, Troy was cleared. That left detectives searching for answers, and they soon found a dark lead. Sandee had a violent ex, Tracy Humphrey, a man with a criminal past who had once held her captive and beaten her. Sandee had bravely escaped and was preparing to testify against him. Testimony that could have sent Tracy back to prison for years. Suddenly, the motive became crystal clear. But Tracy had an alibi. He was home that night with his new wife, Ashley Laney Humphrey, and a friend watching movies and eating pizza. Phone records showed his phone never left the house. Investigators were stuck until they pulled Ashley's phone records. Ashley's phone had pinged near Sandee's home at the time of the murder. It wasn't Tracy who pulled the trigger, but Ashley was right there. Detectives now saw the picture forming. Ashley, only 20 years old and newly married to Tracy, had fallen under his manipulative control. Had she been sent to silence Sandee forever? As the pieces fit together, one terrifying possibility emerged. Ashley was the killer, but Tracy was the mastermind. The truth was getting closer, and soon, Ashley herself would reveal just how twisted this plot really was. Ashley Humphrey, the seemingly naive 20-year-old newlywed, had reached her breaking point. For days, detectives had pressed her with evidence. Phone records, surveillance footage, witness accounts, and the most damning of all, her proximity to Sandee Rozzo at the exact moment of the murder. Ashley could no longer keep up the charade. She crumbled. In a tearful confession, Ashley admitted to the unthinkable. She was the one who pulled the trigger. But, she added, she wasn't alone in the crime. Ashley insisted that Tracy Humphrey, her controlling husband, was the true puppet master behind it all. She painted a chilling picture of manipulation. Tracy, furious and desperate to avoid prison for his past abuse of Sandee, had spent months poisoning Ashley's mind. He convinced her that Sandee's testimony would destroy them both. According to Ashley, Tracy's words haunted her. "If Sandee testifies, I'm gone. And so are we." Ashley said she felt trapped. To her, the murder became a twisted form of love and loyalty. In meticulous detail, she described their sinister plan. How Tracy taught her to shoot, spending hours at the firing range together. How she waited outside the Green Iguana, nerves rattling, watching Sandee clock out. How she tailed her quietly through the Florida night. How, as Sandee parked and reached for her things, Ashley emerged from the shadows. How she raised the .22 caliber pistol and fired. Not once, but 8 times. until Sandee slumped lifelessly in her car. Cold, methodical, heartbreaking. Afterwards, Ashley fled. She called Tracy immediately to confirm the deed. Then she destroyed evidence. Together, they burned her car to cover up their tracks. Ashley's story horrified even seasoned detectives. He said if she was gone, we'd be safe. So I did it. In exchange for turning on Tracy and telling prosecutors everything, Ashley struck a plea deal. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison, a punishment many believed was too lenient for the blood on her hands. But the tale didn't end there. In a shocking twist years later, while behind bars, Ashley made a new and disturbing admission during a televised interview. She now claimed it hadn't been Tracy's idea at all. She said the murder had been her idea. Ashley confessed she had suggested killing Sandee first, before Tracy manipulated or pressured her. The revelation stunned everyone and cast doubt on her entire narrative. Was Ashley merely Tracy's pawn? Or was she always far more dangerous than anyone realized? Whatever the truth, Sandee Rozzo was gone. And the person who ended her life had just made the tragedy infinitely more twisted. The courtroom fell silent in 2006 as Tracy Humphrey, once the charismatic bodybuilder and manipulative abuser, stood trial for the cold-blooded murder of Sandee Rozzo. By this point, the prosecution had pieced together an airtight case. Ashley Humphrey's confession and her damning testimony were at the heart of it. In vivid, haunting detail, she described how Tracy had masterminded the crime, coaching her, grooming her, and ultimately sending her out to kill. The jury heard about the shooting practice sessions. They heard about the obsessive calls and texts leading up to Sandee's murder. They heard how Tracy sat back while Ashley carried out his twisted revenge, only to reinsert himself afterwards to help cover it up. Tracy, on the other hand, tried to project innocence. He sat calmly, wearing his tailored suit, often stoic, sometimes even cold, as the jury listened to stories of manipulation and murder. But jurors weren't fooled. Tracy's violent history, coupled with Ashley's insider account of his manipulation, painted the portrait of a man who thrived on control and would stop at nothing to silence Sandee forever. When the verdict was finally read aloud, the courtroom trembled with emotion. Guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence came swiftly after. Life in prison. No possibility of parole. For Sandee's grieving family, friends, and all those who knew her warmth and kindness, the judgment offered a sense of justice, but not closure. Nothing could bring Sandee back. Her father, her daughter, and countless loved ones faced every day without her laughter, her love, and her undeniable spirit. And while Tracy Humphrey would rot behind prison walls, they were left with memories and grief, and the crushing reality of what he had taken from them. Ashley Humphrey, meanwhile, remained incarcerated as well, serving her 25-year sentence. But even behind bars, Ashley's unsettling revelations continued to cast shadows over the case. In a bombshell post-conviction interview, Ashley admitted something no one saw coming. She claimed that the murder had been her idea all along, not Tracy's. At that moment, everything became murkier. Had Tracy been the true mastermind as prosecutors and jurors believed? Or had Ashley, young, impressionable but capable, been far more complicit than anyone had realized? Sandee's family was left to grapple with those questions. In their minds, it didn't matter who had hatched the plan. Both Tracy and Ashley were equally guilty. Both had stolen Sandee's life. And no prison sentence, not 25 years, not life without parole, could ever undo that unforgivable betrayal. The brutal murder of Sandee Rozzo sent shockwaves far beyond her Florida community. For those who loved her, life would never be the same. Her young daughter was robbed of her mother's guidance, comfort, and unconditional love, forced to grow up carrying the ache of unanswered questions and devastating loss. Sandee's friends, who cherished her infectious energy and kind heart, were left shattered, mourning a life taken too soon. Her parents faced the unimaginable, burying their daughter while grappling with the unbearable weight of injustice. For them, the outcome of the trial brought little comfort. Though Tracy Humphrey was sentenced to life without parole, ensuring he would never walk free again, Ashley Humphrey's fate felt like a cruel twist of the justice system. Despite pulling the trigger, despite carrying out the ambush with cold precision, Ashley secured a plea deal. In exchange for testifying against Tracy, she was handed a 25-year sentence. To Sandee's family, it felt deeply unfair. A betrayal on top of the betrayal that had already stolen their loved one. They voiced their outrage publicly and privately. Ashley, they believed, should never see freedom. And yet, the calendar tells a cruel truth. Ashley Humphrey is expected to walk free in 2028, at only 46 years old. By then, Sandee's daughter will be an adult, a woman shaped by grief, while the woman who killed her mother resumes her life. Tracy Humphrey, meanwhile, will die in prison, his chance at freedom gone forever. But for those left behind, justice can feel hollow. Sandee's murder became a dark lesson about the dangers of obsession, control, and manipulation. She had found the strength to stand up to abuse. She had fought for justice in the courtroom, but in the end, that bravery put a target on her back. She was silenced forever by the man she once feared and the woman willing to kill for him. Her voice was taken, but her legacy remains. A legacy stolen but never forgotten. Every victim deserves their story told. If you found this story shocking and heartbreaking, subscribe to Crime Uncovered and help keep their memory alive. What do you think about Ashley's confession years later? Did she manipulate the story to get a lesser sentence? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep questioning everything.